Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school, and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I'm talking to Pip Jamieson, who is the founder of The Dots, which is, if you don't know already, the LinkedIn for creatives, as named by Forbes. I was so honoured to be able to talk to Pip. Thank you so much to Rowena if you're listening to this for the little hookup. I really appreciate it. I wanted to talk to Pip about building a company. Sometimes even putting ourselves online or launching a service or saying that we charge for something can feel like a huge emotional situation. But Pip's built a company, and not only she built one, she's bought two. She started in Australia and has come over and done something very similar in the UK. She has so much knowledge to share. It's a really meaty episode that I'm sure you'll love. So if you want to come and join in the conversation, please do. We'll be over on Instagram at Nicky Raby, or the show notes will be nickyraby.com/podcast. And also, if you love the episode, please rate, review, subscribe, share on iTunes, all that good stuff. I really want to get to 1 million plays by the end of the year, which it's sort of starting to seem possible, which is very exciting. So, without further ado, here's Pip, here's the episode. Enjoy, my friends. Pip, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to talk to you. I would love to know more about you and the brilliant thing that you've built.
Gosh, I guess I'm the founder of The Dots, which Forbes really kindly called the next LinkedIn. We look after what I love to call no-collar workers. So what on earth do I mean by no-collar workers? These are creatives, creators, freelancers, entrepreneurs, people who LinkedIn just wasn't really working for. I started the business 3 years ago, and it's just been this amazing roller coaster ride to where we are now, I guess.
Fantastic. Did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Were you the person at school who was like, actually, I think I could do this better?
No, not at all. I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I don't think it even hit my brain that entrepreneurship was even a possibility. So the whole idea kind of came about because I used to work in the creative industries, primarily for MTV, and I was just surrounded by mates that were working in this really different way than that traditional white collar workforce. And I just wanted to design a different way that worked for us and our careers. So helped us promote ourselves, helped us connect with each other, but also helped us connect with amazing opportunities. So no, I was never one of those I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It was literally just saw a real world problem and was wait a sec, LinkedIn doesn't work for me and my friends and a lot of most of the creative industries and freelancers and increasingly millennials. And so, yeah, it was just trying to design a solution so there's a better way to build our careers.
Definitely, because also you can't say to people, you certainly couldn't in the small northern town that I grew up in, like, I want to be a personal brand and sort of let me come forward with my personal brand, because people don't get it. People need to see that sort of tangible thing. And certainly when I moved to London, you know, I went to drama school, so I did have some contacts trying to move out from the sort of training ground into the world of work. But I think I said it in a podcast a while ago, it would have been so much easier if my dad was a rock star and my mum was a supermodel. Like, it's so annoying that they were teachers and solicitors and sensible jobs.
And that's a massive problem. It's like the creative industries are just, the majority of it has been driven by word of mouth and friends of friends of friends. And I guess that's a huge problem. So, I mean, when we were at MTV, when I was looking to hire people, the first thing we do is like look at our little black book and ask if anyone knew anyone. But what suddenly started happening is we started ending up with this incredibly homogenous workforce. We all had similar backgrounds, went to similar universities, lived in similar areas. And like, that's when creativity becomes really stale, because if we all think the same, then our creative output is the same. And I was like, there's got to be a better way for me to discover incredible people without them necessarily knowing someone who knew someone. And I guess everything I've been passionate about is kind of trying to democratize creativity so it's accessible for everyone. But with the kind of output that our creative output just becomes better because it's got more different diverse brains and ways of thinking and backgrounds coming into businesses. And yeah, that's everything I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that sort of sense of attaching creativity and income has been really key. And it certainly started to become a bit of a shift, because certainly there was always this idea that you do it for the love, or, you know, it's not a proper career. But everything that we're working with and technology that is supporting us is mainly created by creatives. And suddenly people are realizing, like, oh, it's not just, you know, faffing around. It's actually serious work that needs to be paid for. You built the original business, The Loop, in Australia, and this is sort of the second revision. How did you begin to build a company?
Oh gosh, do you know, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I'm a non-tech founder, so I mean, it was literally as simple as I think it was just sheer naivety. It was like, I saw this problem, I want to fix this problem. And yeah, the first kind of my first baby, I guess, was The Loop, which is sort of a baby sister version of the Dots in Australia, which I started with a business partner called Matt Fail. And I think, you know, back then startups weren't really a thing and no one was really talking about it. And we just went into it naively. Like, we had this vision for a better way to professional network, and we were like, let's just build it. And, you know, I love kind of looking back and going, wow, like, you know, we were basically going up against LinkedIn and we had no idea how hard that is. But I think with that naivety is great, because, you know, instead of feeling like we knew what we were doing, we didn't. So we were always asking questions, and we were also always looking for better ways to do things than necessarily like that, you know, that kind of existing models. And I think that's what sort of leads to innovation. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. We just made it up as we went along, and it sort of all started working out.
Yeah. And I love that you talk so much on YouTube and do events and things like that about that sense of the female founder and having that leadership sort of quality to what you do. Because I don't think at school necessarily we're taught to be leaders. And certainly, you know, at my school, if you put your hand up too much, you were a bit bossy and you were a bit like, whoa, now pipe down. So yeah, it's great to have a woman at the forefront. It really is. I love this quote that you said about reflecting society. Teams that reflect society as a whole are so much better. How did you know how to build a team when you were starting out the first time around?
Yeah, I mean, MTV was such an amazing experience because I had seen how brilliant teams can operate, but also the limitations of that brilliance, which was definitely around homogenous thinking. So I guess when I was starting out with the first business, it was really kind of putting together pieces of puzzles of where were our strengths, where are our weaknesses, and what do we need to kind of tap in and make sure that team worked as a dynamic. And it's a constantly evolving beast because tech has moved on so much from that. Back then designers were called digital designers, but now they're UI and product and UX designers. I think the thing I've learned most along the way is things are moving so fast, especially in the tech space, that no one's really an expert. And I think the most important thing is learning and continuous learning. And I'm a complete book junkie. I'm really dyslexic, so I find it really hard to read physical books. So I just listen to Audible books all the time. And I think when it came to building teams, when I felt like I was struggling with that, or, feeling like massive imposter syndrome leading a team and I'm not really a leader.
And also, please like me, guys, because I'm really nice as well.
And I hug everyone. So I think I just started reading a lot about really innovative leaders that I love and respect, and people that were doing it really well. But I think, you take that advice, but you then have to mold it into your own. And I think something that's changed my thinking about leadership a lot and was that, I have always been, this is my family. I do call them my family. Some people say that's right or wrong. I love hugging my team. I feel like we all support each other through the highs and lows. And I saw an amazing TEDx talk once, and it was a woman was basically talking about really caring about your staff and how that just builds loyalty. And I think I've come to believe that actually there is so much churn at the moment. So many companies are losing so many staff. And I think that's because they've just stopped putting happiness of their team at the forefront. And I think that's something I've always tried to do. So, I actually have we work off something called OKRs, which are an alternative to KPIs. And my key result as a CEO is 10 out of 10 happiness for my team. And it's kind of transformed everything because in the end, the workforce is changing. People aren't just about getting paid as much as you want because they realize you're not necessarily going to be happy.
Absolutely.
It's a myriad of things. It's flexibility so that you can spend more time with your family. It's coming to work and actually love the people you're working with. And I think I've kind of molded and shaped my leadership based on my own style, but also a lot I've read. And that was a very long-winded answer.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer because I feel like, oh gosh, I mean, I went to a wedding the weekend, and sometimes that sense of when you ask, you don't necessarily want to ask people, so what do you do? So you get the whole CV by any means. And some people don't want to talk about work. And that's really obvious sometimes that people really just don't like what they do. And it is that case of, oh, Monday's round the corner. Oh, hump day. Oh, thank goodness, 2 days till Friday. And, I made a decision from being very small that I just didn't want to live like that.
Oh, it's so true. And it's so, I think a lot of people in the creative industries made that decision. We're not being paid the same salaries that you get in the city, but, actually salaries are good. I mean, it was so interesting what you were saying in terms of value, because I think finally people are waking up to the value of the creative industries, because literally 10% of the workforce in the UK now work in the creative economy, and 9% of GDP is derived from the creative economy. So we are a valuable workforce, but there is a deeper level of ethics that kind of sit in there where there has been as much value over, purpose as much as paycheck, enjoying the people you're working with. And these are very creative industry traits, but we've recently kind of started using the term no-collar workers for our community, because actually we suddenly realized there was a lot of people that weren't working in the creative industries that were signing up to the dots. And we sort of started looking into it and realized it was very much being driven by kind of the millennial generation, but it was because a lot of people across all industries now want to experience that. You work so much. Why not love what you do every day? And that is possible now. And I guess that's what we're trying to open up, is you can work in these incredible jobs and love what you do every day. It is possible.
Yeah, I I really firmly believe it. And certainly when I'm saying goodbye to my son, if I'm going off to work or whatever, I try and make it really positive, because ultimately I want him to love what he's doing, and that, you know, he's not sort of counting down the days till he retires, or, you know, who knows what it will be in that generation, but seeing it as something like you can earn money and really enjoy it as well. I love how you talk about your dyslexia. I think it's so important to say it out loud, because so many people don't, or, you know, even in so many different ways, you know, hold that bit of your personality back, or don't say that you find this a little bit more challenging, but you really embrace that, and embrace that in your staff as well, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, like it actually kind of started because, I mean, my dyslexia is pretty bad, and my emails are all completely riddled with typos. And so I started just putting delightfully dyslexic excuse typos on my email signature, because I was like, I can't get everything I do properly proofed. And I've got an amazing husband who proofs like a lot of my comms, but I was like, I've just got to put it out there. And then it's just been amazing, because I've always been quite open about my dyslexia, but I suddenly realized that lots of people hadn't been. And it's lovely when people get messages going, oh my gosh, thank you for talking about it, because I've never spoken about it. And now I've kind of been able to talk about it at work. And I think, you know, the more I've sort of understood my dyslexia, the more I've definitely come to see it as a superpower. I mean, there are challenges, like my spelling and reading speed is really slow. But the real positives are, you know, there's 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic, and 40% of self-made millionaires. So everyone from like Joe Malone, Richard Branson, Anita Broderick, Holly Tucker. And so it's, you know, there is a reason why so many dyslexics succeed in as entrepreneurs. And it's essentially because we're more creative, we're actually more empathetic, and we just see the world in a different way. And I think we've got to stop thinking about these things as negatives and realize that there's just amazing benefits that come from people with neurodiversity. And that's not just dyslexia, that's things like autism. And it's, you know, it's actually just a different brain that you can bring to finding solutions to problems. So yeah, it's nice to kind of be talking about it, because I think everyone should talk about it, and everyone should hire neurodiverse people.
Certainly. And especially if you have never had those challenges. You know, one of my really good friends, her middle daughter has severe special needs and autism. And you know, even when I used to help out when she was little, and even just sort of how you do locks on the swimming pool doors, or, you know, there's so many things to consider, and actually having more a difference and diversity at the table, it brings those sort of, I went to an event actually called Make Motherhood Diverse the other week, and it was so interesting just hearing everybody's experience, because funnily enough, we weren't all just making cakes and swanning around in a gingham dress.
Well, yes, I mean, it's so true. Like, if we don't have teams that reflect society as a whole, we're basically unconsciously building solutions for ourselves. And, you know, this is actually the challenge that has happened. And actually, if we build more accessible products for everyone, it's better for everyone. And, you know, examples of this from a purely like product design, website design perspective is, for example, when women search websites, they prefer on average to search using some sort of drop down, while men on average prefer to use free text search. Now, the huge problem with that is, with most tech products being primarily built by men, we're unconsciously building products for men. And everyone has unconscious bias. I'm as guilty of it as the next person. I mean, like, the Dots are 62% female membership. That's no coincidence. I'm a female founder. You know, that is my unconscious bias building in. So the thing is, absolutely, teams have to reflect society, or we just unconsciously build products for ourselves. And that's why it's so important to have a mix of different people in teams.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad. My mum always used to just say, like, whenever I was bored, she'd always just say, just open your eyes and look around. Then you're like, oh yeah, okay. Don't just be consumed by yourself. Keep looking and listening and learning. And these things our parents say, they're very wise. Well. And it's at that point of being in your late 30s that you're like, oh no, should have been nicer when I was a teenager. Do you have a morning routine or things that really help you to get focused for the day and what you need to do?
Oh, I'm so lucky because I live on a houseboat. So I live on a bar. Well, no, it's not a barge. It's a narrowboat on the Regent's Canal. So yeah, I mean, just waking up to water is just that beautiful reset I need every day. You know, we've got ducks and swans, and just looking at the water is amazing. I will always either cycle or walk to work because I feel like that gets my brain moving in the right direction. And I'll always read a workbook on the way to work, and I'll always read a really trashy bad novel on the way home. So it's like my wind up book and then my wind down book. Yes. But yeah, I feel like that just grounds me for the week ahead, and then I'm sort of ready for action.
Definitely. What also as well, how do you put boundaries in place? Because you've got such an easy name to say that people might be like, Pip, can you just look at can you just do this? Can you just, act on this? It's just come through. How do you differentiate sort of work and play, or do you, or what helps you to sort of stay in your own sort of genius, as it were?
Oh, it's probably the most challenging thing I've had to do over the years, and I definitely haven't mastered it. To be honest, work is my life and life is my work, and that is the reality of the journey that I'm on. I'm literally want to be the next LinkedIn, and that's a very ambitious thing to come to. The thing I think I've found is that I have been very, strategic in a way that I've chosen something that completely aligns what I'm passionate with what I'm good at, with what pays me, and also that brings purpose to my life. So I think, it doesn't feel like work because I have, and there's actually a brilliant book, and hilariously, because I'm dyslexic, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. It's something like Iyagi, or it's the Japanese it's a Japanese book. I'll send you the link. That is so my dyslexia. But it talks about finding a role that does just that. And the thing is, when you find that magic point that intersects what you get paid for, what you're good at, what brings you kind of joy and also purpose, you're not really working. So I work all the time. I work 6 days a week. I have one day off for Sunday where I go completely on airplane mode. But to be honest, I'd rather do that than anything else. Like, I'm surrounded by a team I love. I'm doing something that I completely believe in. And, everyone I kind of meet for work purposes are the sort of people I'd love to meet anyway. Yes. So I get to go to gallery openings and go to amazing conferences and all the stuff that I would have paid to go to if I wasn't doing this job. So, I have very little boundaries between my home and my work and I'm sort of trying to move away from talking about work-life balance because it implies that you don't enjoy what you do. And I start talking about work-life blend. If you find something that combines your passion, it doesn't need to feel like work. And I think that's super important. Sundays on airplane mode are important, though. That doesn't quiet my brain.
And also, I don't really feel the need to just, switch off from work immediately to watch EastEnders 4 times a week because it doesn't creatively fulfill me. It doesn't light me up. Whereas other things, people are like, I can't believe you're watching a TEDx talk at, 10 o'clock at night. And it's like, no, but I like to go to bed with lots of ideas cooking.
Oh, I think that's so true. It's that whole, do you want to just sit down and watch something that's just numbing your brain or not? I mean, so yeah, I think I've just been very lucky in finding that kind of career. And I think that's at the root of what the Dots is also helping other people experience that too. Because yeah, we spend so much of our time working, we might as well love it.
Exactly. How have you prepared for growth at kind of next stages? So those moments, I know we touched on imposter syndrome or doing stuff out of your comfort zone. What helps you to stay really focused just before, I guess, that moment of where you jump, as in open the door to go, okay, this is where we're going for investment. This is, this is quite an important meeting. Do you have any rituals or things that just really help you to stay grounded and centered?
I think the most important thing is the team, to be honest. So I think I've come to realize that my most important role as founder is to build and retain a world-class team, because I can't know everything and I can't learn everything. And I think it's also, and I think this is the key female strength, is being very introspective and recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and where you're good and where you're not. And in terms of more of a way I learn a lot about myself was I keep a Post-it note on my computer that basically says, learnings from the past and mistakes not to repeat. But I also, when I left the Loop to start the Dots, I had a 360 review done of myself, which was someone interviewed all my old team, shareholders, and produced a report that was like what I was good at, one page of what I was really good at.
Wow.
What I was really rubbish at. And the third page was learning from my previous business to apply to the Dots. And I learned so much about myself, and it really made me go, what am I not as good as, and how can I plug those gaps? And I guess then it's really been about making sure that I am surrounded by incredible senior team who can help me, but also incredible, like I have a portfolio of mentors who I can draw on. And I think that's been the most important thing, because so many highs and lows starting a business, and you make so many mistakes, especially if you're innovating, because you have to. That's the nature of innovation. But if you're surrounded by people who share your vision and share your values, they can help you through all of those times, and how to navigate raising investment, how to put together, share option plans. All these kind of things you can build a team around you that can help with that. And I think that's what I've got, I guess, quite good at over the years.
That's fantastic. And I think also it dispels the myth that we have to do it all by ourselves. Otherwise, we're not doing it properly. And that sense of being the control freak and attention to detail, I think sometimes it's just a bit overrated, that we do need to share the load a little bit, especially if we're trying to do all the other things in our lives as well.
Oh, completely. Sharing the load, delegating is so important. The challenge, though, is you do need to make sure they're really good, because there's nothing, because it's really hard otherwise, So I think like that's the biggest challenge any founder will ever have is building a team, because they've got to be the right team, but they've also got to share your values, they've got to share your vision, but they've also got to be better at everything than you are, so you feel comfortable like handing it over. So but it's what I love most is working with my team.
That's amazing. I've got one final question, which is, where would you like to be in 5 years' time, in business and in life?
Oh, 100% still running the Dots. So this is
I know, can you imagine if you're like, no, I want to be a zookeeper? I'm leaving it all.
My husband always laughs that if I sell it, I just start something again exactly the same. No, for me, this is a really long-term vision. Hats off to what LinkedIn has created, but I think it was built for another generation, and I really do want to be the next LinkedIn, and that's going to be a long journey. That's a 15-year journey. And so, gosh, in 5 years, over 31% of our community is already based outside of the UK, and we work with 8,000 companies now that use us to build their brands and hire talent, but they are primarily in the UK. So it's definitely international expansion. So over this next year, we'll be looking to where we go next, and how we build up getting more companies in different countries, because in the end, creativity should be borderless, and it is borderless. So, for me, the Dots only works if you can decide to move to Berlin and find opportunities there, or if you can decide that you want to move to Shanghai and find opportunities over there. So, yeah, it's international expansion will be on the cards, not this year, but in the coming years. And so, yeah, in 5 years, I definitely want to be all over the world. And yeah, just still loving the team I'm working with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I've learned so much from this, and I feel like we need to keep this conversation about creativity and actually how we make it work going so much. So I can't thank you enough, Pip. Thank you. And if people want to come and find out more, where should they go?
So just go to the dots, and if you Google us, we're at the top, or just head to the App Store and download the Dots app, which got featured by Apple about a week ago. So
I saw. How exciting!
So go download the app there.
It feels like a real certificate moment, because this podcast was on the top 100 business podcasts, and I felt like I needed like a swimming badge, yes, or being in the Scouts or Brownies, I've now got my app badge or my Apple badge. It's such a great moment, isn't it?
It's so magic. It was so funny because my husband's a crazy cyclist, and he gets up really early to cycle. So he woke me up at 4 a.m. He jumped on the bed and was like, look. And
that's
and it was just, it was that magic moment, because, it gives you a reach that you can only ever do. I mean, we've got, nearly 500,000 members now, but at the same time, it's expanding that reach, and it's just incredible to have them supporting us. So yeah.
How did you celebrate?
Oh my gosh, how did I celebrate? I think we all had champagne on a Monday morning.
I mean, I do my best work on a Monday morning.
I love how I say champagne. What I mean is Prosecco.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this on a Monday morning. I'm just sorry that I'm definitely not half baked here as I'm talking to you. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Pip, so much. I know so many of my creative listeners will go over and check it out, and they're probably members already as well. So it's just lovely hearing the story behind the brand. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care. See you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.